Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk about CM9, which is going to be Capricorn Cup. This is going to be the first time in a while since I have talked about the Champions meeting, and I figured to give it a shot since I do think that I could give some proper information. Anyways, let's start with this Champions meeting. These are going to be the green skills to get for your Uma if you are running a front runner. As you can clearly see, Shikayo Racecourse does not have a card that gives it. The only way to get this green skill is getting it from racing and Shikayo Racecourse tracks or just randomly from a spark. It is extremely rare and it's not something that you shouldn't bother, since anyways stamina doesn't really matter in this CM since it's a sprint CM. But yeah, these are the cards that you are going to use if you are going to farm parents for this Champions meeting. Let's talk about the map. The map is going to be very interesting because there is going to be a massive downhill section which lasts 775 meters, which is more than half of the track length itself. The map is only 1200 meters and this is easily over half of it, which means that Witch Axe is going to be extremely powerful since you can keep entering a mode like downhill mode and save yourself a lot of stamina. Stamina is not going to be really needed in this Champions meeting. And of course, there is going to be an uphill section in the final leg, which means that power is going to be good. One more thing, that there is no late game corner, which means skills like angling and scheming, moving past and beyond, and also let's pump some iron will never activate, which means that front runners and mostly late soldiers and end closers don't really have their usual skills to buy, which is something very interesting. One more thing is that position keep ends at the 500 meter mark. So if you have any planning on that position keep part, you should know about this. It ends before entering the fourth corner. So here are going to be my recommended stats. It looks a bit scuffed, but let me explain. First off, the speed. Why am I not recommending capping speed? Even though it looks very schizophrenic, this is going to be the late race. The late race is so short that in order for you to get any value from capping your speed, you get it at like the last 150 meters according to my testing over here. And that is not really that good. However, since power boosts your acceleration, which means that you reach your top speed faster, that means that power is going to be very important. I believe that running max power, max width, and getting like 1000 speed is better than getting 1200 speed, 1000 power, and max width. But keep in mind that this is just my recommended stats. So Umas that have 20% power growth in them are going to be extremely powerful in this Champions meeting. Another thing is that stamina and gus are not existent. You can run 300 stamina or even below and you will be just fine because of this massive downhill section, which means that your Uma is going to be very frequently in downhill mode, which reduces the energy consumption by a large amount. So that means that stamina is not going to be needed. So sparks. If you didn't not realize by now that Power Spark is going to be the most important spark out of all of them. Ideally you want it to be 18 Power Sparks, but just if you are going to run basic parents for this CM, I made a video about parenting before this video, you are fine with 15, 16, 17 Power Sparks. If you do not have Power Sparks, width is going to be the second best and then it's speed. Anything else is not going to be good. Next up, Turf Spark is much better than Sprint and strategy combined. Let's go back on the map. The reason why is that sprint distance S only has big value after you cap your speed. The longer the late race is, the more value that you get off of your distance S attribute. However, since it is very small and the late game is very short, power, which boosts your acceleration, is going to be better. So that's why turf is going to be better than sprint. These are going to be the skills that I recommend for everybody. You have your standard skills like sprint, straight corners, style straight corners, tail held high, ramp up, your standard mid game stuff. But you have some options like ignited spirit power, turbo sprint, and rushing gale. So if we look at the map, this champions meeting is basically who hits their acceleration. It's literally that. Unfortunately, there is not like a single Uma that is going to be extremely consistent because it varies. It depends on who activates their acceleration on the final straight. That's why turbo sprint and also rushing gale is going to be good in this champions meeting, because you ideally want to gamble on your acceleration proccing in the correct time. And unfortunately, there is literally no way to get consistent high amounts of acceleration going into the final leg outside of unique skills. So yeah, that's why you want to bring turbo sprint and also rushing gale. For front runners, you also want to bring groundwork, early lead, and then if you are a pace chaser, head on is going to be somewhat decent, but it's just an extra skill if you want to buy it. Late surger, of course, have slick surge or on your left if you are going to use the nice nature wick card, and then enclosers got straight away sport. For the green skills, ideally you want to focus on these three because unfortunately the stamina green skills do not really matter, neither does the guts one. So these three are probably going to be your best ones. The unique skills is going to be like this. I do not recommend buying any of the above. 3 of them do not even activate in this champions meeting. And then the last one, which is shooting for victory, the thing about it is that it activates in the second half of the final corner, which is going to be in this area over here. Taiki Shuttle even does not have enough of a duration to get some acceleration. So the inheritance is not going to be doing anything. So Taiki Shuttle is not going to have a strong unique at all for this champions meeting. So yeah, these are the accelerations that I would not recommend anybody to buy at all. However, the ones at the bottom I recommend you running, which is going to be Victoria por Plancha for front and pace chasers. You also can go with Halloween Super Quick Unique, which is Give Mommy a Hug. For late searcher and enclosers, your only inheritance that you should look out for is going to be Redshift. Since it can proc at the final corner or beyond, you can proc it at the final straight. This is going to be your support cards. This is, you can run 2 speed, 3 wet, and a pal card, but this is going to be my recommendation. I'm very sorry to show it like that because it's not the best in terms of visuals, but what you want to do is that you either want to use the Tokai Teo speed, the Sakura Bakashin speed, or Kita-san Black. It just depends. If you have any of the 3, you want to pick that. And then your second speed could be the Fukitaru speed card. How Fukitaru works in Unity Cup is that you have higher initial stats. So that means is that all the team members that join you also have higher initial stats, which allows you to get higher training facility levels faster than usual. That's why you see high scoring happens with Fukitaro is because your initial stats are going to be higher, which allows you to hit the stat lines that I showed over here and potentially even capping your speed, power and wit. So yeah, Fukitaru is going to be extremely good. You can run 3 speed, 3 wit if you want to use the Tokai Teo speed and also Sakura Bakashin, because Tokai Teo speed has rushing gale and also Sakura Bakashin has turbo sprint. Kita-san Black is there if you do not have either of these 2 cards. For the wit cards, you can slap any wit card, it's fine, but Curren-chan wit could be extremely good since it gives you perfect prep, which is a strong lane movement skill for the mid game, and it also can activate late enough so that it could activate in the late race, or like a part of it activates in the late race, which allows you to have acceleration since that skill also has acceleration in it. For the team compositions, it is going to be like this: 2 pace, 1 late, or you can run 2 pace, 1 front. You can also run 1 pace, 2 late, or just run 3 late soldiers. These are the strategies that I have found to be working very properly, and unfortunately enclosers unfortunately do not really seem that strong since straightaway sport barely lasts in this champions meeting. So yeah, and also a lot of the enclosers do not have really good attributes, unfortunately. As for the tier list, this is going to be my personal tier list with how I'm looking at it. So we have Curren-chan, Condor Pasa, Halloween Super Creek, and Smart Falcon at S rank, and then the rest is Hashi Akibono, Sakura Bakashin, Ogre Cap. Like, Ogre Cap is understandable. Traffic Pulse is actually good at this CM, even though it's a sprint CM, which is crazy. But the rest, unfortunately, do not matter. If you see any of the Ubas below here on the good luck on your career, it is going to be extremely rare. Like, you will probably see a lot of Oshi characters over here. It's crazy to put Taiki Shuttle and also put Suzuka on the Oshi tier, since you know they are very very good in most maps, but since it's a spread CM, Taiki Shuttle is not really that great, and Runaway Suzuka from my testing is not really that good either. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the tier list. I'm going to go through the S rank. For the S rank, we have firstly Curren-chan. She has a very consistent unique because she only needs to overtake somebody in the second half of the race. And she has Meticulous Measures, which is a common skill for perfect prep, which gives her lane movement skill, which helps her go by the side and overtake somebody, and it also increases her acceleration. If this skill does not proc ideally and helps her like get her unique, then it could still activate late enough to get some acceleration going into the late race. However, if you get extremely lucky and just hit, you can get her unique and also this skill to proc together and get a massive 0.5 acceleration and also have target speed increase carry over. And it also has its on from the Unity Cup scenario, which by reaching S rank you will get its on as a hit. You can just buy it and help Curren-chan secure an overtake. She also comes in with 10% speed, 20% power growth. 20% power growth is already extremely powerful, and the fact that she has speed growth rates too makes her extremely good. She's probably going to be the second or the strongest Uba to run on this champions meeting. El Condor Pasa is going to be extremely good because she has a great unique and she also has very good growth rates. The thing is about these Ubas has a common trend that I'm going to be showing you for all of them is that they have acceleration, or it helps them be at a good position to get acceleration. Umas with acceleration skills is why they are put very high on the list. El Condor Pasa, for her case, is that she activates it at the final straight, provided that you are first or second. If you are above 30% HP, which is extremely easy, you will progress. You will get a massive boost in acceleration. Halloween Super Creek also follows this trend, but instead of being like first to second place, she can be first to second, third or fourth, and there is an Uba ahead of her by 1 horse length. The issue with Super Creek, however, is that she has short attribute of G, which means that you would need to be lucky with her career for and invest high amounts of sprint sparks. Ideally, you want it to be 12 sprint sparks and 6 turf sparks. However, that is like a luxury. So going 10 sprint sparks and 6 to turf is fine. Another thing is that she has this very annoying Tierlist show career that she has to pass in order to finish the career. However, somehow you can get third place with around 300 to 350 stamina overall, since of the career buff that you have of plus 400 to all stats. You have enough to beat it even with not that much in terms of stamina. And then we have Smart Falcon. Smart Falcon is the only character from the Frontrunner roster that I believe can actually work in the Champions meeting. The reason is that someone Marzinski would have to spend skill points to get a recovery skill. While yes, you can get a cheap recovery skill, you can't use Moxie because that's a very late into the late race, so it's not going to be that much of effective. Then you also can't reliably get corner skills, because that could proc at the final corner. It's not going to be that great. However, for Smart Falcon, she just has an early mid-game unique that could help her be at first place position and secure a spot for getting Victoria por Plancha. However, she has Turf E, and Turf E is very easy. You can just raise it to A and ideally to S, since Turf is going to be better, but she also has Sprint B. Sprint B is fine, but ideally you want it to raise it to A, so you can use 1 spark out of the 6 for Sprint and the rest go to Turf if you want to build a Smart Falcon. She also has 20% speed and 10% power. Lastly, every single character is runnable, because this is a sprint CM. It just comes down to whoever procs the most acceleration at the correct timing. Hence why Ubas that have final straight acceleration are placed higher than each other Uba, and that also applies to Ubas that can have speed carryover or does have both in the example of current chat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you found this video to be helpful, consider subscribing and consider joining the Discord server, link it in the comment section, and I hope to see you in the next one.